Hebrews chapter 9, verses 11 to 15. Christ, the priest, entered the perfect tabernacle with his own blood as sacrifice, cleansing us from dead works. He is the mediator of the new covenant. But when Christ came as the high priest of the good things that have come to be, passing through the greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made by hands, that is, not belonging to this creation, he entered once for all into the sanctuary, not with blood of the goats and calves, but with his own blood, thus obtaining eternal redemption. For if the blood of goats and bulls and the sprinkling of a heifer's ashes can sanctify those who are defiled, so that their flesh is cleansed, how much more will the blood of Christ, who, through the eternal Spirit, offered himself unblemished to God, cleanse our conscience from dead works to worship the living God? For this reason, he is mediator of the new covenant, since a death has taken place for deliverance from transgressions under the first covenant. Those who are called may receive the promised eternal inheritance. Keep in mind that the letter to the Hebrews was written to the Hebrews who had converted to Christianity. Oftentimes in life we recall past events and bring forward memories that are not necessarily valid in today's world. The Hebrew Christians were attempting to retain their sacrificial worship system and bring it forward into Christianity. They were returning to what they knew and not applying the new lessons of Christianity. The perfect tabernacle is again a reference to the tent of worship used in the desert. Jesus was the perfect Lamb of God who had died a human death for the sins of many. In the temple, a person would offer a perfect lamb, one which had been inspected by the priests and found to be without blemish. 3 days prior to Christ's crucifixion, the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the Greeks had inspected him. Their inspection was not of his body, but of his theology, morality, and integrity. They couldn't find anything wrong or with blemish in these areas. Jesus had become the perfect sacrificial lamb because he had passed the lamb's inspection for perfection. Again, Pilate could not find any blemish in Jesus, his actions, or his thinking. Jesus had passed every inspection perfectly. The blood of goats and bulls would also absolve sin in the Old Testament temple offerings. The ashes of sacrificed heifers also absolved sin when mixed with water and poured over someone who had become ritually defiled because they came into contact with a corpse. But now a new covenant was in place, a covenant which no longer required the sacrifice of animals. Jesus had fulfilled the Old Testament covenant because he became the perfect sacrificial lamb and now becomes the perfect mediator of the new covenant. At each Eucharist or Mass, Jesus is again represented in accordance with his instructions. And he took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And likewise he took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup, which is poured out for you, is the new covenant in my blood."